I own a company which we're based in Bath, and we export around 85% of our goods to the EU. The issue that we're really concerned about is the hold-up at the ports. How are we going to get the items over to our customers in the EU? And the second issue is we're going to become a lot more expensive for our customers due to tariffs. So that's quite worrying for our business. We've also got a third concern, which is that we service our equipment, which we sell into the EU, with UK engineers. But due to the end of freedom of movement, all of our engineers are no longer going to be able to work legally without a lot of paperwork and hassle within the EU. So we are, a bit concerned about it, to be honest.
And what information have you managed to either gather or have been given by the government or the local authority to try and mitigate some of these things?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, and we've been quite proactive in trying to prepare for no deal, which is, I guess, what the Prime Minister's been telling us to do. We've sought the advice of our freight company and also the Department of International Trade. The advice from the freight company in the short term to get round queues and things has been very simply to make sure everything's pre-cleared, which we can do anyway, which is fine. But ultimately, it's paying extra to get goods over to Europe in dedicated vehicles and on priority services, which is going to cost that we're going to have to take as a company against our profits or pass on to the customer. The Department of International Trade, and this is really the thing that shocked me the most, when they came in, they advised us to set up a business inside the EU, which we've done, and we've set up a company in Holland, joining the likes of Panasonic, Sony.
Who did? Who advised that?
An individual who came to see us from the Department of International Trade, from a local branch. They gave us some advice and said that in the circumstances, setting up an EU company for us would be of great benefit, which is a shame because that means that, that they are willing to lose our tax revenue and our business to the EU. And
so, all right, let's take that in for a second. An advisor from our own government department for international trade came to see you and advised you to remove your business from the UK and replant it in the European Union for us to leave the European Union, while we leave the European Union.
Yes, and I'm not the only SME owner who's had advice that would be a good option because they have no information at this point about what they can do after October the 31st. To put it into perspective, we've received a grant from the Department of International Trade to exhibit at a trade show in Amsterdam in November. I've gone back to them and said, okay, but how are we going to get our UK employees to work over there for that trade show in November because they won't be allowed to due to the end of freedom of movement? What can you say about that? And they've said, we're not sure. We can't give you the answer until after the Brexit